Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever caught yourself reacting to a situation in a way that almost feels automatic? Like there's a script running in the background of your mind that you didn't even write? Well, today we're talking about exactly that. The incredible and honestly sometimes frustrating power of our unconscious mind. But more importantly, we're going to look at how we can actually rewire it. We're drawing on some absolutely fascinating insights from educator and speaker John Muldoon, who kind of stumbled onto a method for taking control of his own mental programming. It's this wild journey from pure skepticism to actual behavioral science, and it's going to completely change how you view the thoughts in your head. Okay, let's dive right into this. To really understand how we can reprogram our brains, we have to start with a story of extreme resistance. I want you to picture an incredibly angry sixth grader. His family is going through a really dark time, they're all crammed into a car together, and his dad is just compulsively listening to those old-school, ultra-positive motivational cassette tapes. You know the ones, right? Where this wildly enthusiastic voice tells you, you should wake up every day, go to the mirror, look at yourself and say you look good, today is going to be awesome. Well, to a cynical 12-year-old, the idea of talking to yourself in the mirror just so you develop little voices in your head sounded absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it sounded like a fast track to losing your mind. He hated those tapes, hated them. But, as you'll see, those cheesy cassettes planted a tiny seed that would unexpectedly bloom years later. So, that brings us to Section 1, the accidental epiphany. Starting in 6th grade, this kid is just angry at the world and despises those cassette tapes. Fast forward to 9th grade, and honestly, things have actually gotten worse. He's totally isolated and literally about to fail out of high school entirely. But then, he meets a history teacher who pulls off what he later calls psychological warfare. This teacher acts like a Jedi mind master. He somehow manipulates and tricks this angry, stubborn kid into suddenly wanting to do well. And the transformation is so extreme, going from failing everything to getting A's and B's, that his dad literally sits him down to ask if he's on drugs. Of course, teenagers eventually catch on. By the end of the year, he realizes he was manipulated, gets furious at the teacher, and just quits trying all over again. But then comes the summer job. He's working this miserable shift when a kid walks in playing with a Matchbox toy car. And this car is an exact, sparkly gold replica of his dad's car from that stressful 6th grade road trip. Seeing it triggered a massive epiphany for him. He realized, wait a minute, if a high school teacher can trick my brain into getting good grades, and those cheesy tape guys said you can trick your brain, then there must be a connection here. He realized his brain could actually be hacked.
Moving right along to Section 2, Science of Thought Patterns.
So let's look at the science, because these unconscious thought patterns dictate our physical behavior in some deeply surprising ways. Back in 1911, it was highly fashionable for women to wear massive hats. Researchers actually noticed that these women would duck and tilt their heads when walking through doorways, even when they weren't wearing the hats. The pattern was just completely established in their brains. Jump ahead to 2013, scientists observed young women with anorexia walking through wide, double doors. Now, despite having plenty of space, they would turn sideways to squeeze through. Their disordered thought patterns were literally altering how they moved their bodies through physical space, entirely on a subconscious level. Finally, there's a famous University of Pennsylvania study that looked at football players and mental visualization.
Contrasting physical practice with mental visualization in that UPenn study, researchers found something mind-blowing. When athletes simply sat down and imagined throwing a football perfectly, practicing it purely in their minds, they experienced a performance gain remarkably similar to physically practicing the throw out on the field. I know, it sounds like absolute magic, but it's just neurology. Every single message you hear, and especially the ones you repeatedly tell yourself, take root in your brain and start physically influencing what you do.
Think of it like this. Imagine your brain is a giant speed dating auditorium. All your positive and negative thought patterns are sitting at tables, constantly moving around and interacting with each other like speed daters. When they meet, they lessen each other's effects. The positive neutralizes the negative, and the negative drags down the positive. This perfectly explains why a highly optimistic person can bounce back from terrible news so quickly. It's not that they don't understand the bad news, it's that their sheer volume of positive thought patterns acts as a buffer, neutralizing the negative impact. On the flip side, someone with deeply rooted negative patterns can experience a moment of incredible joy, but the feeling is completely fleeting because their negative thoughts quickly neutralize it.
Which leads us to Section 3, Rewiring Your Brain. Let's look at 2 experiments our speaker actually ran on himself as a teenager. First up, the cool experiment.
Armed with his new epiphany, a 15-year-old John decided to use that old cassette tape method. He woke up every day, looked in the mirror, and aggressively told himself how amazingly cool he was. He even went so far as to paint the letters COOL in giant blue paint on his bedroom wall. I mean, he was trying to force a reality through sheer self-deception. Well, it lasted right up until his younger sister burst into his room and brutally informed him that if he had to literally tell himself he was cool, he was definitively not cool. She told him to just try being happy so he wasn't so completely miserable to be around. And you know what? That harsh truth led to a breakthrough. He realized his baseline emotion wasn't sadness. It was just this constant simmering anger. So he pivoted to the thankful experiment. Instead of faking being cool, he started aggressively thanking people for everything. Borrow a pencil? He'd treat it like you literally just saved his life. It was intense, but guess what? It worked. Shifting his emotional baseline towards sincere gratitude actually broke his cycle of anger. He began to naturally intercept his negative thoughts before they could even take root.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 4, the Life Coach Playbook.
Rule number 1 is represented by the number 3. Give sincere thanks 3 times a day. Not fake thanks, not that polite filler we all use, but actively finding 3 specific things every single day to be genuinely grateful for. This isn't just about being polite, guys. It's a mechanical process of building those positive mental roots we talked about earlier. It stocks your brain's speed dating auditorium with positive thoughts, ready to neutralize the negative ones when they inevitably show up.
Rule number 2 revolves around probably the most mundane question in the English language. How you doing? Most of us just say fine and move on. But you can actually use this everyday question as a strict mental trigger. When someone asks how you are, don't just say I'm great to fake it till you make it. Use that exact second to actively check in with yourself. Evaluate your actual internal emotional state. If you say I'm great, actually mean it. And if you aren't feeling great, use that moment to acknowledge it internally. It essentially forces you to stop living on autopilot.
But what happens when you check in and realize you are feeling terrible or angry or anxious? Well, behavioral science gives us these 4 clear steps to overwrite those negative patterns. Step 1. Identify the emotion. Put a precise name on it, like I am angry. Step 2. Source it. Why are you angry? Pull at the threads, even if it's uncomfortable or painful, until you find the root cause. Step 3. Identify what you want to be. Do you want to be happy, calm, focused? And finally, step 4. Consciously overwrite. This is where you intentionally manage your thoughts to replace the old pattern with the new one. It sounds a lot like programming a computer, doesn't it? Because in many ways, that is exactly what you are doing. You are actively stepping in as the administrator of your own mind.
We started this explainer with a kid resisting the whole idea of having voices in his head. But the absolute truth is, those voices are there whether we want them to be or not. Our thought patterns are constantly dictating our physical reality, our emotional resilience, and our daily choices. You can let those voices run wild on autopilot, heavily influenced by outside negativity, or you can step up. You can intentionally curate them. You can be the one telling yourself the hard truths, giving the sincere gratitude, and calling the plays. So I'll leave you with this. When you listen to the voices in your head today, who is actually doing the talking? And are you ready to grab the whistle and start coaching?